Let me welcome you to the next installment of our meditational journey through Psalm 16. Today we're going to be looking at what is probably my favorite verse in the psalm. If I were completely transparent, I would tell you that this is the verse that drew my attention to this psalm in the first place. It is verse 5 and goes like this. The Lord is my chosen portion and my cup. You hold my lot. Now, you may remember from our study of verse 2 that there are two words translated Lord in this psalm, Yahweh and Adonai. The first one is the personal name of God, and the second is a title for king or master. The one used in verse 5 is the tetragrammaton, Yahweh, God's name. I wonder if you can see how this fits together now. Right after the psalmist mentions the quote-unquote other gods that people worship, after he takes time to think about the idolatry that other people participate in, he makes a crystal clear statement about who he is choosing to worship. Yahweh is my chosen portion. The version that I read this verse from today is the English Standard Version. In truth, it is the only modern version that has the word chosen. The Lord is my chosen portion in its translation. And I think it is used in the sense as it is something that is desirable. Like we might say prime rib is a choice cut of steak, especially over something like eye round steak or whatever. He's saying Yahweh is premium, desirable, the best, or choice. You are my chosen portion, my choice portion. He is saying that what I have in God is tops. However, this ESV rendering does present another truth for us to consider, and that is you have a choice in your Lord. The psalmist is really put off by the idolaters that he's aware of, as he mentioned in verse 4. He says he isn't even going to mention their names. But the reality of these idolaters is real. And as we said last week, idols are really all around us. And some are not so obviously idols. They may even be good things like relationships or family or even religion itself. And sometimes these things slip into God's place in our lives. What we have to do is what David did in Psalm 16, who declared his allegiance to God in verse 2. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. And then he comes right back to it again in verse 5. You, Yahweh, you are my portion. We have to come back over and over, rededicating ourselves to God. You are my God. You are my Lord. You are my portion. You are my all in all. You are my sufficiency. And so on and on. This sentiment is captured in the classic hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. In a verse it says, Oh, to grace how great a debtor, daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness like a fetter bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. That leads me to exercise number 1 for today. I want you to listen to this song, Come Thy Fount. You can find it on the internet or somewhere else. And meditate on it, especially this verse that I just read. And then use it as a time to recommit yourself to the Lord once again. Coming to Him again, saying, You are my Lord. Now when David speaks of God being his portion, many scholars think that he's hearkening back to the time when the Israelites divided up the promised land in Joshua chapter 19. But I also think it may reflect on a more ancient event. In Genesis 13, we have the story of Abraham, who at that time is still called Abram. He needed to separate from his nephew Lot because they were having some family turmoil. Abram tells Lot to choose which way he wants to go. And then Lot sees and looks at the fertile land of the Jordan Valley. And he thinks this is the choice land. And he moves there, which happens to be in the direction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And as you probably know, this will eventually lead Lot to the very brink of personal destruction. So what made the difference between Lot and Abraham? It was the presence of the Lord and not the condition of the situation. Lot did have the best land, and Abram had the undesirable section. Lot had the good circumstances, and Abram had the difficult one. But the presence of the Lord in the situation, in the circumstance, changed everything. This is the direction that David is going in Psalm 16. That regardless of the situation, having God in it makes it a choice situation. He says, God is my portion. That's where David lives. That's where his needs are getting met. Like Abraham's portion of land, where his needs were met, where he lived. He then goes on to say, God is my cup. In the scriptures, the word cup is used as a metaphor for one's fate. Like in Matthew chapter 22, Jesus asked the disciples, can you drink the cup I'm about to drink? He's speaking of the coming crucifixion. Our cup is what befalls us in life. In life, we have this constant flux of up and downs, good times and bad. We're constantly reacting and adapting to events and circumstances that are unfolding around us. Many, if not most, are unforeseen. How many of us had planned for the event of COVID-19? Yet in the midst of this and all the other things that are presently occurring, we can still say Jesus is here and ultimately in control. I rest in God, who controls whatever comes my way. This is how the psalmist wraps up verse 5. He says simply, you hold my lot. This is a resolution statement that God has my life in his hands. Now remember that David is in the midst of some type of turmoil. Some upheaval is afoot in his life. And his resignation is that even this is from God. And with God there is no other place David desires to be. I really like the blankness of this statement. Just plain, you hold my lot. It is not, you hold my lot of blessing, or you hold my lot for prosperity, or you hold my lot for success, or any other qualifier. God simply holds my lot, no matter what that lot may be. This is what it means to be abandoned to God. And it flies in the face of what may be today's greatest perversion of the biblical message, which is the prosperity gospel. The teaching that when you get God into your life, everything is going to work out fine. It's all sunny skies and kittens from then on. Chances are someone listening today, if not most of us, are facing some situation. Maybe it's big or maybe it's small, but it's a situation we don't find desirable. The challenge is to abandon ourselves to God, to say, God holds this. That leads me to exercise 2. Read Romans chapter 5, verses 3 through 5. Then write a prayer combining the situation you face with those scriptures and the idea that God is in control, even if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to. This is an abandonment exercise for us to practice abandoning ourselves to God. So as we face a life that none of us ever expected to experience, can we say, God is my portion? He is what I have. To live now in this situation is what has befallen me. I know God has this in his hand. And I hope this is an encouragement for the times you face. May God be praised because God has it in control. Amen. you.